Today, I'm going to talk about the 3 types of flashes that I use at every wedding, most portrait sessions, and pretty much any time I shoot. Hi, I'm Brian, and you're watching Brianized. This is basically the channel for photography education, a little bit of review, stuff like that. We are going to show you some how-tos along the way, and we recently just rebranded the whole channel to call it Brianized. That way it separates it from our regular photography business and shows it that it's really more about teaching you guys how to be better photographers. But today, what I'm going to talk about is the 3 types of flashes that I use and why. Now, little background. I was a Canon shooter until about 2 years ago, and I was using Canon 600EX RT flashes, and I had a couple of 580 EX2s and all that. The 600EX was really cool with the radio transmitter because it was the first flash that you didn't have to worry so much about line of sight or anything like that. You could go really far away because it used a radio transmitter rather than an infrared, so you got a lot of nice range. It was kind of like when we used to use pocket wizards, which I don't know, some people still do maybe. You could shoot through walls and everything, and it was just really cool, very freeing, but you had the cords and all that. Well, one of my 600EXs decided to stop working. It just, for whatever reason, stopped. And I looked at the price, and it was like $575 or $550 to get a new one. And I kept hearing about this new company that wasn't all that new, called Godox. Now I know you're actually supposed to say it Godox, but guess what? I actually like the sound of Godox better, so that's how I'm going to say it. Somebody's going to complain, but sorry, that's just what I'm going to do. Anyway, so I heard about this company. I kept hearing about it, hearing about how their stuff is really great. The prices were almost unbelievable to me. $175 for the equivalent to a 600EX RT. That just sounded too good to be true. So I was also hearing about another product that they made, the AD200, which was kind of the size of a Speedlight, roughly, but had 3 times the power. And it was radio and wireless. And I said, wow, you know what? A self-contained unit like that, I got to check this out. So we bought one of these, and we bought one of these at the same time. And I believe it came with this transmitter. I'll get into that in a second. And essentially, from day one, I said, this is it. This is the way to go. These things are like $300. These are $175. I mean, I bought both of these for less than the price of a new Canon 600EX RT. That's just crazy to me. Have we had any problems with them? Not really. We had one of these die, but at the prices that they are, it was actually easier to just suck it up and move on than to worry about going through warranty and everything else. It was just kind of crazy. Could I have handled it better? Maybe, but that's how I did it. Anyway, getting back to the original premise, what I wanted to have was 3 different levels of lighting to be able to use at weddings, portraits, portraits for us are engagement sessions usually, which could mean a couple of family members, but usually it's just 2 people. Now, to me, I'm in Florida. A speedlight isn't enough in those situations, but I do use them, and I'll tell you when. The AD200 is kind of like the workhorse of our stable because it's pretty light. I don't know exactly how much it weighs, but it's not that heavy. And I can use this with a pop-up 24-inch softbox, put it on a monopod, and it's portable. You can take it anywhere. Good for hundreds of full power flashes. We use these things all the time. We have 2. And in reception rooms, I'll point them at the corners, things like that to give an ambient exposure, and then use one of these on camera, bounced off a wall to give a little directionality. Gives a nice ambiance to most rooms. Works really well. But we're in Florida. Guess what? The sun is harsh. The sun is hot, and the sun is bright. I come from New England 20 years ago, but in New England, we never had these problems. The sun was never really an issue. We just photographed in it or found a little bit of light shade. Whereas, man, come to Florida and it's a whole different world. It really is different. There are golden hours, the sunrise and sunset. I don't do the sunrise thing. I'm barely awake at that time. Haven't had any coffee yet. So you don't really want me to shoot at that time. But sunset time, that last hour, that's amazing in Florida. Better than anywhere else, anywhere I've seen. So it's really nice to be able to shoot at that time. But not everybody likes that. Not everybody has their wedding at that time of day. Not everything can be crammed into 1 hour. So we do end up shooting at some of the off times of day. And even middle of the afternoon. That's when I pull this guy out. This is the Godox AD600 BM. Now, they make a few different versions of 600 flash. They make this in a TTL version, which I didn't find the need. This, I spent $550 for a 600 watt second battery powered wireless radio transmitted flash. Anybody that's been in the business for more than 10 years would hear those numbers and go, what? And it works? Because it's just unbelievable. This technology didn't exist just a few years ago. And when it started coming out, it was ridiculously expensive. I'm not even going to get into it, but there are competitors out there. I mean, Profoto, Broncolor, they all have competing products to these, but none of them are at this kind of price range. Now, somebody will say, oh, but it's cheap junk and this and that. No, it's really not junk. This is built as good as some of the other stuff that I've used that cost twice and 3 times as much. This unit itself is really strong. It's even got a built-in fan, so if it starts to get too hot, it kicks on the fan. It's got a lot of neat little things to it. The battery has a little section here that shows you how much charge is left. And yes, all these little the clear plastic things, I leave them on so I don't scrape up my equipment. Everybody peels them right off. I leave them on. I don't want to scrape things up. What we have on it today is actually the 7-inch reflector. Yeah, let me see if I can get this off. But that's the bulb. You put that inside a softbox, boom, good to go. That's about all you need. I leave this on because it's very protective, and that way, if we get in a situation where it's just too windy, can't put a softbox on, I have shot with this many, many, many times. At not too far of a distance, this works wonderfully well, especially when you're shooting against that bright, bright sun. Fills people in, plenty of power. If this is going to be too much trouble, or it's just not as hot of a day, or as bright of a day, I should say, we drop down to the AD200. Now you might notice I have you might notice I have a round head on this. This is an accessory that I love. It also comes with a bunch of other accessories, gels, grids, this little half dome. I probably should have brought them out to show you in this video. But this is roughly 1/3 the power of this. So this being much smaller, much lighter, and still really powerful is very, very versatile. Probably the most versatile thing that we have next to the Speedlight. This is a V860 Mark II. It uses a lithium-ion battery that basically I probably shoot 3 weddings with this before I need to recharge it. I can get 5 weddings out of these, and this, we've had it for 3 months. I've charged it like twice, maybe 3 times. The batteries last, and that's at full power. I'm usually using this at full power and that at full power because of the time of day, Florida sun, that kind of thing. Now, what I do with this one, this does sit in my camera's hot shoe, and here's why. If my camera's right here, and I point this at you, it makes for hard, nasty light. But if I turn it, now that light is going to come from over there, and it's going to just kick in here. I do use ambient light most of the time. I'm not using these as my main light source. If the reception room is so dark that I have to, that's when I put one of these, maybe 2 of these, in the corners, angled up at the ceiling, creating an ambient light. Then I'll use this on top of that to create directional light. And basically, whichever way the face is pointing, that's where you turn your light. There is another trick. You can do it like this. See how that flash is up and at a 45-degree angle? When it's on your camera now, right? This is your camera. You're in horizontal. Now when you do a vertical, it's still aimed up and away. I do that sometimes when, it's just reception time and there's faces all over the place. There's no real necessary directionality to the light. But a lot of the time, I like to switch it. I turn it. Now, these are the flashes that I chose, and these are the transmitters that I chose. This is the X1. Now, this is for Sony. Their transmitters are meant for certain camera makes, okay? So this is the X1. I like this transmitter, but I don't love it. It's okay. It's nice and small. The form factor is cool and all, but spend a little extra money and get the X1 Pro. This one has a full LCD screen. You can hit the button that you want for the group, so you can change things very, very quickly. A lot easier to use. This one's a little finicky and scrolly, and once you get used to it, it's fine. It does the job. This is just a little bit better and only a little bit more money. But the real reason why I use this system. And I say that on purpose. This is a system. Is this light here can control these. These transmitters can control all three of these. You can have multiple lights, multiple setups, several groups, and you can control them all from your camera. But on top of that, if you have two shooters, you give your second shooter a transmitter, they can change all those lights themselves from their transmitter, and you can have your own settings from yours. So you can have two different lighting setups for two different shooters using the same lights. You can turn things on and off, you can change their ratios, you can change their powers. So you can have some on TTL, you can have some on manual. It's incredible and pretty rare in this price range to be able to do that. And as far as I know, it's the only system that actually does this. Somebody's probably gonna tell me that I'm wrong, and I'd like to know what system can do it, because I've never seen any other system do it. There's many, many Godox flashes now, okay? They have this version, the BM, which is the manual version. They have a TTL version, and then they have a Pro version. Then in between these two, there's a 400 Pro now. I didn't find it necessary for me. I already got the 600. The 400's a little bit smaller, but not that much. It's not this small. And it didn't seem to be enough power, more power than this to make it worthwhile. And then they also have a 200 Pro that they just came out with. And then the flashes, they also now have a round head version, the V1, which I plan to get because I think it's cool. But for now, we have 4 of these, we have 2 of these, and we have 1 of these, and that gets us through any shooting job that we can possibly have. But to me, it's that system. That's what makes this magical. I can pull any of this gear. I can have this on my camera. I can use it as an on-camera flash, point it, bounce it, whatever I need to do. I can flip this onto master mode, and these are automatically in slave mode, and I can control those. So I can have them set there, set there, set there, turn it on and off as I want to, put a spotlight on the bride and groom during their first dance. Maybe I have a backlight or a hair light that I can turn off as I'm working. I don't have to run over to that light and change anything. There's no wires. It's all done radio. And I have not really had any problems with misfires or anything like that. Now, one thing that I have been told, I just recently found this out, people have been saying, oh, I'm getting misfires left and right with the Godox stuff. It's blah, blah, blah. You know why? Read right in the manual. It actually says do not use rechargeable batteries. You want to use regular alkaline batteries. Something about these particular transmitters, they need that full voltage of the alkaline battery, because rechargeables are about a 1/4 volt less than a regular AA. So there's a tip. Use regular batteries. Keep them on hand. I get like months out of batteries, so it's not really a big expense to do it that way. The other batteries, they're all rechargeable lithium-ion batteries. Not had any problems. They recharge fairly quickly, a couple hours, good to go. Like I say, you can get several weddings out of these, and I don't need them at full power when we're shooting like for ambient light indoors, things like that. I'm going to ramble on forever if I don't just stop. But basically, here's the gist. I chose these 3 because we have our most versatile, most portable, next most versatile, next most powerful, and then we have the most powerful, but really it's a special use. I mean, we don't use it for everything. It's big, it's heavy, it's not the kind of thing you want to just be carrying around all the time. These, I can throw this in my pocket if I needed to. It's not really that convenient, but I could. And then Speedlights, obviously, you can't get by without at least having a couple of Speedlights. In a pinch, you can use these during the day. Not as powerful, you need to be a lot closer, but it can work. If anybody has any specific questions about the stuff that I have right here, ask in the comments below. Would love to hear from you. Also, we are Amazon affiliates. Obviously, we're trying to fund the channel just a little bit, so we do have links to all these things below. And be sure to check out brianeyes.com. I'm starting to write some articles on there, and we have a Facebook group. It's the link will be below. It's a lot easier than telling you a Facebook group. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.